You're listening to the one news show that keeps you informed on the world around you. This is 41.1 The Info Loop. What's happening, guys? This is Mikhail Nelson, and you're listening to 41.1 The Info Loop. I got an interesting news story from CBC News this time around, so let's check it out. Ever since new screening measures came into effect over the past year on November 21st, 2015, the Canadian Border Service Agency has arrested over 3,067 people with outstanding criminal arrest warrants at border crossings. According to CBC News, in the previous year, before the changes came into effect, the CBSA arrested 556 alleged fugitives. This six-fold increase in arrests was mostly due to the efforts of a southwestern Ontario woman who demanded answers after allegedly being sexually assaulted by a Nigerian man who was able to get back into Canada despite having warrants out for his arrest. It's stories like this why immigration is such a big issue in the West. Economics aside, you have a group of people who have not integrated into a different society properly and think that only their rules should apply to them. Need I remind you of incidents like Cologne, Paris, and Florida? Cologne itself was just tragic, to say the least. 1,500 women. How do you cover that up? Oh wait, you can't, but Angela Merkel sure tried. Shouldn't she try to cover up the rapes of 1,500 women due to Muslim rape gangs? Does that make her a rape apologist? Well, according to SJW logic, it would seem to be that way. And to think that it took one woman from southwestern Ontario, kicking up a fuss to have somebody investigate the case of her sexual assault in order to get something like this done. Here's the thing. When people come into a new country, whether it be refugees, immigrants, whatever, they need to understand that when you immigrate to any country, you have to obey the laws of the land. And it just doesn't apply to Canada. It applies to America, it applies to wherever they're trying to get to. Whether it be east or west, north or south, doesn't matter. You have to know that the rules of your former country do not apply to the laws of the new land. And it's things like this that makes me wonder, what are our leaders thinking? I know they want to try to accommodate for new citizens, but this is getting ridiculous. People are feeling unsafe. They want to know that they feel safe around new people. And if you can't reassure them that, then what are you doing? You think that people should just sit there and take it where you have one set of rules applying to the people coming in, where everybody else has to follow the exact same rules that they have been living under for years? There's kind of a double standard here, and I don't think that sort of thing is going to work. Over in the UK, you have certain areas of the country that are exclusively Muslim areas, and pretty much they've created enclaves and closed themselves off from other citizens. And it's gotten to the point where you have people going out at night. You have all these Muslim people going out at night, and they're patrolling the streets, and they're trying to, get everybody who is at night, who are doing things like smoking, drinking, even if they are not Muslim themselves, they're trying to get them to conform to the rules of their former country, especially Sharia. And it's not going to work, and people are getting annoyed by this, but as a matter of fact, there have been a few cases where people have notified the police and charged these people with harassment, although in some cases the people who have been charged got off with just a warning. But people should not be allowed to patrol the streets to enforce their rules on other people, especially if they're people from another country, the country that they moved into. This is not going to work. If you want to have a melting pot of different countries, you shouldn't have the best and the worst parts of different cultures coming together. You should only take the best parts of each culture and have them come together. Stuff like Sharia law and Muslim rape gangs and stuff like that, that's not going to work. It is going to make people feel unsafe, and that's what people are getting sick and tired of, which is part of the reason why Brexit happened. The biggest reason we may have to get into another time. But people want to know that they feel safe within their own country. And if our leaders are going to allow things like this to happen, then I don't know how much longer their respective parties are going to last. I mean, you have people like Justin Trudeau, who recently went into a mosque and the genders were segregated. And to think that he calls himself a feminist, and for him to see the genders being segregated, doesn't he think that's a bit off? Doesn't he think that something like this is a bit unfair, that something like this shouldn't be happening? For him to see something like this, he should have called them out on it and say, look, you guys can't be doing this. You guys can't be segregating the genders like this. You have to make things fair for the women as well, because the women in this country are treated with equality. They have the right to a proper education. They have the right to speak their mind. They have the right to do, they have pretty much the same rights as men do here under the law. They have the right to work. They have the right to, they have property rights. They have all sorts of rights here. And for him to see this and not call it out, this strikes me as sort of a double standard here, because for the longest time you had SJWs preaching to us that we should be more accommodating towards women and minorities. I myself am a minority, but however, I've always made a way for myself. I didn't need help from anybody, mind you. However, I am a guy who is always willing to fight for human rights. And here's the thing, you can't have one set of rights for one set of people and another set of rights for another set of people. It just doesn't work, and you're gonna get a lot of people upset. So if you see this sort of thing wherever you are, you have to call it out wherever you are. It doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what. You have to be consistent in your beliefs, and this is what ticks me off with a lot of these civic leaders. They're not consistent in their beliefs. And Justin Trudeau was a perfect example of this. Angela Merkel being a huge example of this. And to think that she tried to cover up the rapes of 1,500 women. This boggles my mind to no end. 1,500 women. How do you cover that up? Oh wait, you can't. And the fact that she tried to get the police involved, the media involved, tried to cover the whole thing up, and in the end it just backfired anyway, all for the sake of political correctness, for multiculturalism, and now the German people are upset by this. And I have seen cases where you have Muslim people parading in the streets saying "Hi Hitler," and nothing is done about it. Normally, if it was any other citizen, they would be arrested and charged extremely for this. And these are the sorts of double standards that I'm talking about. And it's these sorts of double standards that cannot stand. And the people are getting sick and tired of it, which is why you had Brexit, which is why you had Donald Trump winning the 2016 American election. And I know that on Riot Radio I said that Canada is going to be next, but France, especially after all the terrorist attacks that they had within this year, they're looking like a good candidate for some sort of reform. Or even if they don't leave the EU, something's bound to change within France. The people are gonna rise up, and if this is not checked here. I know I've rambled on for long enough, but our leaders gotta understand that they can't have two sets of rules. They can't have the worst of people's culture coming into the melting pot. It's just not going to work, and the people are really starting to show that they're not going to tolerate this anymore. That's all the time I have for this episode. Tune in next time for when I have another interesting news story for you. And as always, free your mind. Until next time, this has been Mikkel Nelson, and you just listened to 41.1 The Info Loop.